The morning of February 6, 2013, dawned cold and clear in Tunis. The city was just beginning to stir, with the first light of day casting long shadows on the quiet streets. The promise of a new day, however, was shattered by the echo of gunshots that reverberated through the neighborhood. Chokri Belaid, a man who dared to speak truth to power, lay lifeless outside his home. 4 bullets, a cold-blooded assassination that left the nation in shock. Tunisia, still reveling in the afterglow of the Jasmine Revolution, was in shock. The air of newfound freedom was suddenly tainted with fear and uncertainty. Belaid, a left-wing politician and a fierce critic of the ruling Islamist Ennahda party, had received numerous death threats over the years. His fearless denunciation of religious extremism had made him a target. He was a voice that many wanted to silence. He had dismissed the threats as mere intimidation tactics, believing that his cause was just and his voice necessary. But on that fateful morning, the threats turned tragically real, leaving a void that could never be filled. The assassination sent shockwaves through Tunisia and beyond, making headlines around the world. It was a stark reminder that the path to democracy was fraught with danger, and that the fight for freedom was far from over. The hope ignited by the Arab Spring seemed to flicker and dim as news of Belaid's murder spread like wildfire, casting a shadow over the nation's future. The streets of Tunis, once filled with the chants of revolution, were now heavy with grief and anger. The nation mourned a hero, and the world watched in sorrow. Chokri Belaid was more than just a politician. He was a symbol of hope, a voice for the voiceless. Born into poverty, he rose to prominence as a lawyer and a human rights activist. His eloquence, charisma, and unwavering commitment to social justice resonated with ordinary Tunisians. Belaid was a vocal critic of the Ben Ali regime, which had ruled Tunisia with an iron fist for decades. He endured harassment, intimidation, and imprisonment for his beliefs. Yet he never wavered in his commitment to democracy and human rights. After the fall of Ben Ali in 2011, Belaid emerged as a leading figure in the secular opposition. He founded the Democratic Patriots Movement, a coalition of leftist and nationalist parties. His voice, clear and strong, called for a Tunisia free from the shackles of both dictatorship and religious extremism. The finger of suspicion for Belaid's assassination quickly pointed towards the Islamist Ennahda party, which had risen to power in the wake of the revolution, promising a new era of democracy and freedom. Ennahda, long suppressed under Ben Ali, represented a significant portion of the Tunisian population who saw them as a beacon of hope. However, their conservative ideology and alleged ties to extremist groups made many in the secular camp uneasy, fearing a rollback of the secular values they cherished. Belaid had been a particularly vocal critic of Ennahda, often challenging their policies and questioning their intentions. He accused them of undermining Tunisia's secular identity, stifling dissent, and turning a blind eye to the growing influence of radical Islamists in the country, which he believed threatened the nation's future. His accusations, often delivered with his characteristic fiery rhetoric, struck a chord with many Tunisians who feared the erosion of their hard-won freedoms and the return of authoritarianism. Ennahda vehemently denied any involvement in Belaid's assassination, insisting that they had no motive to harm him. They condemned the killing, calling it a heinous act aimed at destabilizing the country and derailing the democratic process. However, the accusations persisted, fueled by a deep mistrust between the secular and Islamist camps, each side blaming the other for the nation's woes. The assassination deepened the existing political fault lines, pushing Tunisia further towards the brink as the nation grappled with its identity and future direction. The assassination of Chokri Belaid was like a match thrown onto a powder keg, igniting a wave of unrest that swept across Tunisia. Tunisia, already grappling with severe political instability and economic hardship, erupted in protest. The streets were filled with anger and frustration. Tens of thousands of Tunisians took to the streets demanding justice for Belaid and an end to the Ennahda government. Their voices echoed through the cities. The protests were initially peaceful, fueled by a mix of grief and righteous anger. People held banners and candles, mourning their fallen leader. But as tensions escalated, the peaceful demonstrations descended into violent clashes with security forces. The situation grew increasingly volatile, the air filled with tear gas and the sound of stun grenades, creating a chaotic and dangerous environment for everyone involved. The spectre of violence, a haunting reminder of the revolution, returned to cast a long shadow over Tunisia's fragile democracy. The memories of past struggles resurfaced. The assassination plunged Tunisia into a deep political crisis, shaking the very foundations of its government and society. Prime Minister Hamadi Jabali, struggling to contain the unrest, announced the dissolution of the government and called for the formation of a technocratic government. This was a bold move in a time of uncertainty. However, this move was met with skepticism from the opposition, who saw it as a desperate attempt by Ennahda to cling to power. The political landscape remained fraught with tension. Section 5. A Nation in Mourning. As the political turmoil raged on, Tunisia mourned the loss of Chokri Belaid. His funeral, attended by hundreds of thousands of mourners, was a testament to his enduring popularity. People from all walks of life, united in grief and anger, thronged the streets of Tunis, chanting slogans demanding justice and an end to political violence. Belaid's assassination transcended political affiliations. He was seen as a martyr for freedom of speech, a symbol of the struggle against tyranny and extremism. His death served as a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the human cost of political violence. In the days and weeks that followed, tributes poured in from around the world. Human rights organizations, political leaders, and ordinary citizens expressed their condolences and condemned the assassination. Belaid's murder served as a rallying cry for those who believed in a democratic and tolerant Tunisia. Section 6 of The Long Road to Justice. The investigation into Belaid's assassination was long and arduous. The authorities were under immense pressure to bring the perpetrators to justice, but the investigation was hampered by a lack of evidence, political interference, and the complex web of extremist groups operating in the shadows. Years passed, and the case remained unsolved. The families of Belaid and other victims of political violence grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress. They accused the authorities of dragging their feet and protecting those responsible for the killings. Finally, in 2024, a breakthrough came. After years of investigation and numerous delays, the trial of those accused of involvement in Belaid's assassination began. The eyes of the nation, and indeed the world, were on the courtroom in Tunis. Section 7. Guilty verdict, uncertain closure. The trial was a tense and emotional affair. Witnesses recounted the events leading up to the assassination, providing chilling details of the plot and its execution. Prosecutors presented evidence linking the accused to extremist groups and alleging that they had acted on orders from within Ennahda. The defendants, for their part, maintained their innocence. They claimed that they were victims of a political witch hunt, scapegoats in a larger power struggle between secularists and Islamists. The courtroom became a microcosm of the divisions that continued to plague Tunisian society. In March 2024, the verdict was delivered. 4 individuals were sentenced to death, and 2 received life sentences for their roles in Belaid's assassination. 5 others were acquitted due to lack of evidence. The sentences, while welcomed by some as a long-awaited step towards justice, did little to heal the deep wounds left by Belaid's murder. Section 8. The Fight for Tunisia's Soul. The assassination of Chokri Belaid was a watershed moment in Tunisia's post-revolution history. It exposed the fragility of the country's democratic transition and the deep divisions that continued to plague its society. The struggle for Tunisia's soul, a battle between those who sought a secular and democratic state and those who yearned for a return to a more conservative order, intensified. In the years that followed the assassination, Tunisia witnessed a series of political crises, economic downturns, and social unrest. The hopes and aspirations of the revolution seemed to be slipping further away with each passing day. Yet, amidst the turmoil, the spirit of Chokri Belaid lived on. His sacrifice served as a constant reminder of the importance of freedom of speech, the rule of law, and the need for unity in the face of adversity. Section 9. Belaid's legacy, a seed of hope. Chokri Belaid may be gone, but his legacy continues to inspire hope. His unwavering commitment to social justice, his courage in the face of oppression, and his belief in the power of democracy serve as a beacon for all those who strive for a better future. The road ahead for Tunisia remains long and uncertain. The country is still grappling with the challenges of building a truly democratic and inclusive society. But the memory of Chokri Belaid, his words and his sacrifice serve as a powerful reminder that the fight for freedom and justice is a fight worth fighting. His legacy, like a seed planted in fertile ground, has the potential to blossom into a brighter future for Tunisia, a future worthy of his sacrifice.